Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Road of Recovery. We have David here from Findlay, Ohio. Hi David, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming out here and sharing your story with us. We'll get right into it from the beginning. Can you describe your childhood for me? What was it like? Did you grow up with both your parents? That kind of thing.
Um, I was raised in a small town called Tyro, and my mom was gone a lot. My sister, a half sister, my father married my mother, and I was born to a pre-made family. From about 6 years old until fifth grade is gone in my life. I don't remember any of it. I'm in EMDR right now, working on the trauma of my past. So I was on my own at 15 years old. I was emancipated at 16. And I did finish high school, but I was using drugs as far back as I can remember. You know, when I was 14 is when I started doing the hard drugs, cocaine, and messing with pills, you know, Percocet, Percodan, Placidil, all the stuff back then. And marijuana was always in my life. I met a girl, got her pregnant, was married and divorced by 18, using drugs and alcohol. So I moved to Michigan and found another girl, got married and divorced by 21, another kid, and just abusive, you know, in and out of jail all the time. Then I moved to Arizona. I thought, well, I'll try to get clean by doing a geographical relocation. So I moved out to Tucson. The worst thing is I took myself with me.
Yeah.
I was waiting on myself when I got there. And drugs were so much cheaper out there and so much more accessible. And so that's when I really started getting into meth and cocaine. I would go down to Mexico and buy all the stuff. And my disease just got worse, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it was probably trying to hide from the trauma of my past.
For sure.
You know, the sexual abuse and not knowing, and it was really strange childhood to always feel abandoned and unloved and unwanted and just used, you
Right.
know.
I mean, from a very, very early age.
Very early, and it was for a very long time. And I'm just now starting to remember through EMDR some of the really terrible traumas that my brain has been protecting me from. And now I realize why I do some of the things that I do today. You know, it's just allowing me to realize, oh, hey, that's why you do that, you know, little idiosyncrasies, you know, and the trauma can be triggered from smells or sounds or sights. Trauma is really a crazy thing. And every time, instead of wanting to feel, I would just want to use another drug.
Numbing the pain.
Trying to fill that hole inside
Right.
of me, that big void that, you know, I had. And of course, not having a mother or not having any female around, I had codependency, female issues. I was always trying to chase the next, you know, girl. So I met a girl down in Arizona, and I was like, I know where this town is in Findlay, Ohio. I got a job as a union welder. I was able to pass the drug screen, and I worked there for a little while, and I got hurt at work. And that's when, in 2003, the doctors prescribed me OxyContin, and they said, these aren't addictive. You can take these for your pain. So I was prescribed over a period of years through surgeries and everything, mass amounts of OxyContin. I was prescribed an Oxy 80 and a 40 3 times a day, and 10 Perc 10s for breakthrough pain. And then I wasn't using them properly. I started snorting them, of course, and chasing. I was doing 2 different doctors. You know, there was Opanas and the fentanyl patches, which I would, you know, I would eat them, and just all the crazy stuff and then they decided that they didn't. I come up positive for marijuana, so they're like, well, we can't give you these anymore. So I started chasing them on the streets. Well, the price was so high and everything. I decided I was going to try to come down off of them with crack cocaine. So I'm hurt. I can't work. I have a habit. I start selling crack to supply my habit. I got caught 6 or 7 trafficking drug charges, and I got a pattern of corrupt activity, a RICO Act, organized crime. I went to prison in 2007 from here in Hancock County. I was sent to Toledo, TOCI, and I did 2.5 years in prison.
Wow.
I come out and I got 5 years probation. They give me a judicial because they cut me a little fat. While I was in there, I had another child. I had a girlfriend that had gotten pregnant, and I wasn't able to be around for my child's birth. And I come out and I wasn't quite ready. I went to the doctor and I was like, I'm hurt here, and legitimately, I have atrophy in my leg, I have back issues, so they started prescribing me, morphine and all the pain pills again. So I was going to probation, and I had to be dirty for those. I had to come up positive. So I was just playing that, I'd use, and I'd have to buy them off the streets to come up positive probation, blah, blah, blah. And I started selling drugs again. But during this time, I found this new warm feeling of heroin and fentanyl. And I started snorting it at first, but the next thing I knew, I was like, I'll never shoot anything up. The next thing I knew, I was sticking a needle in my arm. And it progressed worse and worse to where when I woke up every morning, I had to stick a needle in my arm to not get high, but just to be well, not be sick, to get out of bed.
Right.
Which led to more drug charges. I sold more drugs, more trafficking, heroin, fentanyl, trafficking cocaine. I have 14 trafficking drug charges plus the RICO Act, and a few other felonies on my record. I got clean for about a year, and I met this girl, and I thought, wow, you know what, I can control it. I'll just drink with her, maybe smoke a little pot. I can control this. I have a year clean, a little over a year. And it didn't work. And the next thing I knew, it's like, well, if she's this nice to me with drinking, maybe if I get some cocaine, and so I relapsed. And I had some money in the bank, I had a little time clean, nice car, and it wasn't very long. I lost my job, I lost my freedom, I lost my kid, I lost everything. And I blew through 20 grand in 6 weeks in the end of a pipe. I had nothing to show for it.
Wow.
And so I went back to doing what I always did. I sold more drugs. And I got caught again. I was on probation. I had 3 years hanging over my head on the shelf. And I knew that I couldn't take it anymore. I told the judge, I was like, man, I really need a chance. So I went to a treatment center here in Finley. I went to Treeline when it was open. It was the first time I'd ever done any inpatient. I mean, I'd done IOP, and I'd done matrix model, and I'd done moral recognition therapy, all of this stuff. But when I was in treatment, after a few months in jail, and I went to treatment, and after about 30 days there, I remember where I was standing. I literally threw my hands up and I was like, I surrender. Whatever you guys tell me to do, I want to do to give myself the best chance to stay clean. And that's when I decided to go into really working with my therapist. I'm really trying to EMDR, trying to find out what the root cause of why I was using. You know, I believe that I was born with an addictive gene, but the trauma, I feel, for me, the trauma flipped that gene, turned that switch on, and made me not want to feel. So since I've come out of treatment, I volunteer for everything I could volunteer for, and I read and I try to educate myself on why I am the way I am. And I work in recovery now. I work at a recovery house with the next recovering addict, just to keep myself, to remember where I was and how far I've come in such a short time, really.
So how long have you been sober now?
It was 2 years on August 5th. You know, my therapist today, I love. I have my sponsor for 3.5 years. I'm very close with him. I have mentors. And I like to talk with all the people in recovery. For me, my recovery is my job. And the way to be successful at my job is networking. I have to know who to call, where to call, and how to communicate with those people because, you know, anger would make me, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to use. When I got clean, all those feelings come, and I've never had them since I was a small child. I never had to feel, and I had feelings about my feelings. I hated that, you know. I don't want to, too happy, too sad, too mad, you know, and that balance of way up or way down, and to finally be able to get in the middle and just kind of ride that little wave.
So if you had to pick one of your favorite feelings that you've received through recovery, through sobriety, what would it be?
I would have to say gratitude would be the very top of the list. You know, I'm so thankful for all the people, to know that there are so many people who really care. I had no idea. You know, while I was using, whenever you would do something for someone, you had to give them something. And I always expected, you know, I did something, I wanted you to give me something. And now all these people want to so freely help and give me and do honestly care without wanting anything in return. And I understand that feeling now. I help another recovering addict, and I get a feeling of thankfulness of what was given to me. Now I can give back to you. And it's just carrying the message is something that it's hard to explain, but it really does make me feel good.
So what have you been able to accomplish or do in sobriety that otherwise wouldn't have been possible?
But besides finding serenity, when I got out of treatment, I'd lost everything. I was homeless. I was walking. Now I have a vehicle. I love riding my Harley. You know, that's my little piece of you know, serenity. My happy place is out riding. Like I said, I work in recovery. I'm able to have a job doing something that I always just had a job where I hated to go there. It felt like, oh, I gotta go to work again. Now I don't even feel like I go to work. It's like I go to this house and I hang out with my friends, and I get paid for it. You know, I get paid to take them to meetings, which I was gonna go to anyway.
Right.
You know, it's like my normal day, but they're paying me to do this. Wow.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And I enjoy it. Just like coming here and talking to you. This is what I'm passionate about, because I've overdosed so many times and been brought back, and there is a reason that I wasn't taken. My brother last year died of an overdose. My very best friend, he lived 3 houses down from me. He'd called me and asked me for drugs, and I said no, and the next morning he'd passed away. I've probably lost, I know there's 40 people that I was acquaintances with, and some 12 or 14 that I was very good friends with, and 2 cousins and a brother, and a lot of people this disease has taken away from me, and it didn't take me. So I want to try to tell people that there is a better way. I am so happy today. I can do anything I want to do, as long as I don't use drugs. You know, that's just not an option for me. because for me, I found that the mental relapse happens way before I pick up that drug. You know, something will happen and it'll be like, well, you know, fuck it, you know, I don't care. And then a week or two later, it'll be like, well, you know, I already decided to do it, and there it is. So being able to realize what's going on in my body and my mind, it was huge. All the small aspects of using occupational therapy, using yoga, I take all these pieces of my 12-step meetings. I do several 12-step meetings, you know, of course, the learning from the book and living the streets. I put all of those together for my personal recovery. Everyone's recovery looks different. Everyone has their own certain path. Whatever works for that person, you know, I get them because I've been there.
Right.
You know, I've done every drug there is, every which way. You know, literally.
So what have you learned from your addiction?
That addicts are the most brilliant, creative, passionate people that I have ever met. It's so intelligent. There is so much talent. Musicians, artists, being able to be creative, working on a vehicle, anything that you can imagine. I know a person that is in recovery that is just phenomenal at it. You know, maybe it's the obsessive compulsive of how we are, but they're just the most wonderful people I've ever met. I love people in recovery.
Same. So for someone trying to get sober, do you have any words of hope?
Don't give up. And as they say, you know, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle happens. Just reach out to someone that you trust, or reach out to a crisis. You know, there are so many people who truly give a fuck. You know, they really care. There's so many people that care, and all you have to do is ask for help, and they want to help you. And I know it's hard to ask. I was like, oh, I mean, I'm a man, I don't want to ask, you know, the vulnerable. No, it takes a stronger person to say, hey, I need help, and to accept it than it does to sit there and hurt yourself, you know, day after day after day.
Right, it is hard,
The
but
slow
it's
suicide.
so worth it.
It
Yeah.
is. It's a beautiful life.
Well, thank you so much, David, for coming out and sharing your story.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you or that we missed?
I believe everyone has their own path, and doing something like this, if anyone has a chance to tell their story, that they should really try to get out there and tell their story, because all you have to do, we're all the same, but it may touch someone and it may lead them to want to get into recovery themselves.
I absolutely agree. And again, thank you so much for coming out, sharing your story, and being so supportive for On the Road to Recovery. We really appreciate you.